name is Dr. Alistair Finch. I'm a historian, or I was. I have to get this down, to leave a record, because someone needs to know what I found. It all started with a footnote in some obscure text. A forgotten village, a local legend I wrote off as just a dark bit of folklore. The story of a town that stitched its own eyes shut. The official records, what few there are, call it mass delusion. A shared psychosis. That's a lie. They weren't trying to keep themselves from seeing the world. They were trying to stop something from seeing them. And now I think it sees me. My field is historical anomalies. I look for the little tears in the fabric of accepted history, the events that have been papered over or just forgotten. That's how I stumbled onto the name Vergessenheim. It was a handwritten note scribbled in the margins of a dusty 19th century census ledger from southern Germany. The spidery ink just said, Vergessenheim, Pop 112, see addendum. Of course, there was no addendum. The village doesn't show up on any official maps after 1788. It's like it was wiped from existence, its memory scrubbed clean. For 6 months, that single note was all I had, a name and the ghost of a location in the remote, densely wooded highlands. Most of my colleagues would have dropped the trail right there, called it a clerical error. But my obsession has always been with the stories that don't want to be told. I started cross-referencing everything from that era: tax records, church archives, trade manifests. And the few mentions I did find were chillingly consistent. Sometime in the winter of 1788, all contact with Vergessenheim just stopped. A trade caravan that went there a few months later found the place completely abandoned. The homes were all intact, doors unlocked. Tables were set for meals that were never eaten, but there were no people. The official explanation, hastily written and filed away, figured the villagers had simply moved on. A harsh winter maybe, or failed crops. But an entire village doesn't just get up and vanish, leaving everything they own behind. So I had to go there. The area where Vergessenheim was supposed to have been is now just an unforgiving stretch of forest, cut through with hiking trails. The nearest town is one of those sleepy little places that time forgot. At first, asking about Vergessenheim just got me polite shrugs and blank stares. Nobody had ever heard of it. But you have to be persistent in this line of work. In a dusty local tavern, over a beer I didn't even want, I mentioned the name to the old man behind the bar. His face, a roadmap of wrinkles, just tightened. He leaned in, and his voice dropped to a whisper. He told me the name was bad luck. He said the old ones, his grandmother's generation, had a different name for it. They called it the Village of the Blind. He told me the local legend, the one that never made it into any history book. He said the people of that village weren't driven out by famine or cold. They were haunted. He didn't know its name, just the description that had been passed down in whispers. Der Schmale, he called it. The slender one, a thing you could never see head on. It lived in the corner of your eye. A flicker of movement, a tall, thin distortion in your periphery. You'd turn your head, he said, and there'd be nothing there. But the feeling of being watched would stick to you, cold and heavy, like a damp cloth on your skin. The more you tried to see it, the more it noticed you. And the more it noticed you, the worse things got. He said the villagers didn't leave. They did the only thing they could think of. They chose darkness over the constant peripheral horror. That legend gave my research a terrifying new focus. I spent weeks digging through uncatalogued family letters and church papers in a damp parish basement that smelled of wet stone and decaying paper. And then I found it. Tucked inside a hollowed-out Bible was a small, leather-bound journal. It was the diary of a priest, Father Ernst, who was assigned to Vergessenheim in 1787. His first few entries were mundane, notes about the weather, the simple faith of his congregation. But then, the tone started to shift. October 12, 1787, he wrote, "A strange complaint has taken root in the village. Several parishioners have spoken of a distraction, a flicker in the eye. They describe it as a smudge of black ink on the edge of the page, a tall, narrow shape that vanishes when they try to focus on it. I have dismissed it as a symptom of fatigue. The harvest was difficult this year. A month later, his writing was more frantic. November 23rd, 1787. It is a plague. Half the village now speaks of it. They call it the Watcher. Children weep in their homes, refusing to go outside. They say it is tallest at dusk, a sliver of night that moves against the trees. I too have begun to experience it. While writing this very entry, I saw it, a wrongness in the shape of the doorway. I turned and of course nothing. But the feeling? God forgive me, the feeling of its attention is a physical weight. My heart is a stone in my chest. The entries grew shorter, more and more paranoid. He wrote about villagers boarding up their windows, refusing to leave their homes, only to discover the thing wasn't just outside. They saw it in the reflection of a water basin, a dark figure standing just behind them. They glimpsed it in the space between the floorboards. His final entry was barely legible. The ink was smudged. The words chaotic. January 14th, 1788. They have found their solution. Old Alara, she did it first. Used her sewing needle and gut thread. Her husband found her sitting by the fire, a serene smile on her bloody face. She said the quiet was a blessing. Now they are all doing it. They come to the church, not for prayer, but for thread. They believe if they cannot see it, it cannot see them. They are stitching their eyes shut. A ritual of salvation. They offered me the needle. I refused. I will keep my eyes open. I must bear witness. I must see what it is that the sentence was never finished. The rest of the page is blank. I brought the journal back to my office. For days I just transcribed Ernst's words, and with every page, the air in my small, book-lined study felt heavier, thicker, static. I told myself it was just the subject matter, the psychological weight of a story that horrifying. But then, it started. It was subtle at first. A flicker of movement by the bookshelf while I was working late. I'd whip my head around, heart pounding, and find only the familiar spines of my books. I blamed exhaustion, too much caffeine, not enough sleep. Then I'd be walking down my hallway and, for a split second, I'd see a tall, slender shadow stretch across the far wall. A shadow that wasn't mine. It was gone the instant I tried to look at it. I started leaving all the lights on, but the shadows only got deeper, more defined at the edges of my vision. The quiet of my own home became unbearable. I'd sit in total silence and still feel a presence, a focus. That feeling Father Ernst described, of being a specimen under glass. I stopped looking in mirrors. In the dark reflection of my computer screen, I'd sometimes catch a glimpse of the space behind me, and my breath would just catch in my throat. I was seeing a shape, a tall, lean silhouette in the periphery, always in the periphery. My academic curiosity had curdled into a raw, gnawing fear. I wasn't studying the history of Vergessenheim anymore. I was reliving it. Last night was when it all fell apart. I was sitting right here, at this desk, looking at Father Ernst's final entry next to a map of the village I'd pieced together. I was trying to pinpoint the church. The air was so cold I could see my breath. All my rational explanations were gone. This wasn't fatigue. It wasn't my imagination. It was real. In his journal, Ernst described the sounds after the villagers had blinded themselves. The silence of the town was broken only by people stumbling into things, the soft collisions of bodies navigating a world they could no longer see. They hadn't escaped. They had just trapped themselves in the dark with it. All the other records suddenly clicked into place. The village didn't die from a migration. It was starvation, exposure. They had traded their sight for a few moments of peace and died for it. And that's when I felt it. A change in the room, a drop in pressure, the faint smell of damp earth and something else, like ozone. I didn't dare turn. My eyes were locked on my monitor. But in the black reflective surface of the screen, I could see the room behind me. And standing there, just over my shoulder, was a figure. It was tall, impossibly tall, its form wavering and indistinct, like heat shimmer off asphalt. It had no face, no features. Just a slender, elongated emptiness, a void in the shape of a man. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at its reflection and I finally understood. I understood the villager's final desperate act. The true horror wasn't seeing the thing. The horror was the act of seeing itself and knowing that it was seeing you back.